It is a good evening if you're a French fan. You're probably very disappointed if you expected Luis Suarez to light up this World Cup. Uruguay have lacked the cutting edge and are now headed home. Ashley Westwood and Eugene-Son Lingdo are here with me in the studio to look back on that game and also set up a blockbuster which we hope will end up being the game of the tournament. I'm talking about Brazil versus Belgium. 2-0 win then for France. They're through to the World Cup semi-final, first time since 2006. They'll take it, even though it's again been a performance which hasn't convinced me at least.
Yeah, I think obviously goals and games are huge. They dictate the way that teams play. Obviously scoring a goal in the first half and then the howler by the goalkeeper. 2-0 France, you were never going to see them, going at it full pace. The idea after half-time was just to slow the game down. Be efficient, keep the ball, take the sting out of the game. They know the Uruguayans want to play fast and want to make it physical. So I think it was a professional performance by France. Weren't electric, but it didn't need to be. Okay,
but they have shown, Eugene, that when they have to be electric, they can be. We saw that in the game against Argentina. Didn't need to get out of perhaps third or fourth gear, maybe?
You could normally see, you can understand the tension and the pressure that is there being at the quarterfinals and they wanting to move ahead. So with the game plan that they've come forward to, so they've actually done really well. I feel they deserve the victory. And Uruguay weren't up to the mark.
What's going on now with goalkeepers these days, Ashley? We saw that start with Karius in the Champions League final. Then you had Caballero, you've had David De Gea, now you're having Muslera, who perhaps you were perhaps hoping could be in contention for goalkeeper of the tournament. Not after this.
No, I mean, a big mistake. He'll know that. He'll be the first one to put his hand up. There was a bit of movement in the ball, so you can see why he's got it wrong. But just took his eye off it a little bit. Got his body position all wrong. When your hands are outside your body, if you like, you're not behind it. It was always going to end up in the back of net. So a poor mistake, and the timing of that was terrible as well. And it was such a bad mistake. It kind of flattened the Uruguayans, and it was a real uphill battle from there.
And what's interesting to note, in all these names I mentioned, they haven't been under too much pressure when they made those mistakes, Eugene. What do you think is going wrong? He's saying it was a bad mistake. Yes, it was. But as a top quality goalkeeper at this level, he's just conceded one goal before this and then one goal in this match and then made an absolute mess of this.
Normally goalkeepers tend to lose track of the game. Normally, sometimes when they're not in the game as much as the outfield players, they're normally there. So normally they tend to, concentration lapse, I'd say. So this could normally happen to most of the goalkeepers when they're not.
But actually, not exactly a great start to the quarterfinal phase. We expected perhaps much more. You thought it's going to be a tight, cagey affair. But you got to look at Uruguay and wonder, didn't exactly turn up, did they? Miss Cavani big time?
No, I think, to be honest, the system, what they play, leaves them a little bit weak down the outsides, which we spoke about before on the previous show. And it was easy for France to get out. The fullbacks could split nice and wide. They could always find them. There was always a pass on, so they were never under any serious pressure. Obviously, Cavani missing was big. Suarez up front on his own. They work really well as a pair. And you wouldn't have seen the fullbacks getting us free if Cavani and Suarez played, because they do a lot of running and they would have covered that. So I think it was more of a system thing. And then obviously what we mentioned, the timings of goals. Once France got 1-0 up, they were always going to make the pitch even bigger and just control it and just slow it. They like to play slow anyway, France. And it was just slow, steady build up and just took the sting out of the Uruguayans.
And that's the worry with Uruguay, isn't it? They've always been very reliant on those front two up top, Suarez and Cavani. And I was actually looking at this game and remembering in 2014 when Suarez got banned for biting Chiellini. And then they played Colombia, very listless performance. And similar kind of a show here up top. You take one man away from that front two and you sort of see Uruguay exposed.
You can see the strongest point of Uruguay would be those two up front. And they've really done well as a pair. As the previous game you would see, they combine very well. They work the defenders very well. So obviously Cavani missing means just, the combination, permutations of the both and how the understanding with each other has just faded away and made it hard for Suarez to work with Stuani up front.
And also what you see now with this French team is perhaps you could make out the difference in quality across the pitch, and while you talk about Suarez and maybe you can add a couple of more perhaps world-class players, if I could be perhaps a bit more nice way of addressing them. But you look at France and they just showed you why all that quality is there. And when you have that quality, I mean, you didn't exactly see Griezmann, Mbappe and Giroud running riot, but they still got the result, 2-0.
Yeah, I think, like you say, they got top-class quality players right the way through the 11. And we still don't know how good they are, in my opinion, because they've not. We've obviously seen it in bits and parts in the Argentina game.
But is that a worry, Ashley, that we haven't seen them full throttle?
I think so, for everybody else, because you always get the impression with France that they can just raise it a little bit more. They just do enough what they have to do. So, they're trying to efficiently get to that final. And like you say, if they do have to go hammer and tongs against somebody else, you might see an even bigger improved performance. Because like you say, Griezmann scored, yes, and Mbappe was a little bit inconsistent. We're obviously young players, you get that. So if all of them click at the right times, they have got the power, the firepower to go all the way. But it's just, obviously the key is them all turning up and all performing at maximum levels. Yes,
perhaps they get to do that in the semi-finals, because France are through to the semis. It's the first time since 2006, though 2010 was a largely forgettable campaign after the team imploded in South Africa.